Hey, Bomb Squad. If you're a comedian or a podcaster looking for an affordable website solution with a modern look, then we recommend Pucks Hub. With a Pucks Hub website, you can set up your new website in minutes with easy-to-use pre-built templates. Pucks Hub websites are customizable and can easily be integrated with other platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. The best part? Pucks Hub plans are only $5 per month. We use Pucks Hub for our website at the Art of Bombing podcast, and we think you should too. That's why we've partnered with Pucks Hub to offer listeners a free 60-day trial. Head over to puckshub.com to subscribe and use promo code AOBPOD at checkout for your 60-day free trial, and then pay only $5 per month after that. Take your career to the next level with your own Pucks Hub website today.
Dan Bublett's Comedy Productions.
Live from the Chief Comedy Festival, that's what's coming up on the Art of Bombing, episode 274.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Now podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Art of Bombing podcast. It is me, your host, Dan Bublitz Jr. Unfortunately, Josh is not with me this week. Don't worry, he did not get fired. He'll be back next week. What happened was we just didn't have time to get together and record an intro over the weekend because the episode we're releasing today was recorded Friday live at the Chief Comedy Festival and Train Tour in Trinidad, Colorado. And now it is Monday, and we wanted to release that episode to celebrate our 6-year anniversary. That's right, today is our 6-year anniversary, which is amazing. This podcast debuted May 7th, 2017. It is now May 8th, 2023, and we are still here. We're still kicking, and we're kicking because of people that listen to this podcast. You, right now, the people listening are the ones that helped keep this podcast going. We wouldn't have been able to do it without you. I can't believe that we've been doing this for 6 years. It's amazing, and things have changed over the years. And I want to say thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. Honestly, if it wasn't for the support and some of the comments and things that we've gotten over and the words of encouragement that we've gotten over the years, I probably would have quit this podcast a long time ago because it does not pay any of my bills. In fact, I pay out of pocket for this podcast most of the time. It costs me money to do this podcast, and I don't mind because I love when I run into a new comic and they realize that I'm the host of this podcast and they tell me how much it has helped them, and that's so encouraging, and it feels good to know that we are contributing something to our comedy community and we're helping new comics learn about comedy, get better at their craft, and not just new comics, new and old. I get feedback from comedians that have been doing comedy for a long time. And, we've been continually trying to improve this podcast over the years. This podcast started with me recording conversations with an app on my phone. Now I'm in a full-on studio with professional recording gear. We're constantly trying to improve our technical sides of things and the format of the podcast. We've tried different things over the years. And again, just thank you for listening and bearing with us as we try these new things. One of the most recent things, though, that we did this year that we're getting a lot of great feedback on is that we reformatted the Between Bombs, and we changed our schedule. We changed our schedule to release new episodes on Mondays, and then the Between Bombs callbacks on Thursdays. And the callback episode is a bonus episode that we're putting out every week that calls back the Monday's episode, and we go into a deeper conversation, and we've been getting really good feedback, like this feedback that I got from my good friend, former guest of the show, friend of the show, Larry Smith. This is some text that he sent me. He said, just finished the most recent Between Bombs, and it was great. Really like the digging deeper aspect. And then he continues to say, I think it adds a nice bow to the episode and answers questions that may not have been answered in the moment. And that is exactly what we were trying to do. We wanted to dig deeper into the episodes. That way, we could take those, as Josh would say if he was here, those nuggets, talk about them, grab them nuggets, give them to you, to the listeners, so that you can take those nuggets and apply it to your own comedy to continue to get better doing comedy. And I'm glad that people are enjoying those. So again, thank you not only for the feedback and all the encouragement, but just supporting this podcast over the years. We really couldn't do it without you. We've had some incredible guests over the years. We've got incredible guests coming up. That's what's great. The good news is this podcast is not going anywhere. It's going to keep going. We've got a lot of guests already in the bank and trying to get some other things lined up. We're creeping up on our 300th episode. We're hoping to do something big with that. So a lot of fun things are coming up. Now let's get back into this week's episode. So again, this week's episode was recorded live in front of a small audience at the Chief Comedy Festival and Train Tour in Trinidad, Colorado. It featured a panel of comedians instead of just one guest or a couple of guests. It featured a handful of guests. Normally when I do live shows, if there's an audience, the comedians will do stand-up, then we'll talk about bombing, and it'll be one at a time. I didn't feel like there was a big enough audience for them to, do stand-up. So I threw an audible, and they went with it. And the audible was, we just sat down and did a round table type discussion, or a round table podcast. I tried to make sure to moderate the chaos, to make sure everybody got a chance to speak up, and I think it turned out really well. I will give you a disclaimer about some technical stuff with it. Because it was recorded Friday and I didn't have a lot of time, I didn't get to do a lot of editing to it over the weekend. Therefore, you may see some discrepancies in some of the sound levels, the audio levels between guests. I do apologize for that, but the quality of the content is there. It was a great episode. And the guests were great. Because I was at a comedy festival, I got to have comedians from all over the country right there live and in person, and it was amazing. The guests include Autumn Horvat, Ameerah Sanders, Dan Umthun, and Sara Anne Myers. And they were all fantastic guests. They all had fantastic stories. They had fantastic insight to add to comedy. So those of you that are listening right now, you can take some of those nuggets, put it to use, and get better at your craft. So one last time, thank you so much for supporting this show. And here's our episode live from the Chief Comedy Festival and Train Tour in Trinidad, Colorado. Enjoy.
It's the art of bombing.
So we'll just go right down the line, starting with you, Autumn.
Cool, yeah. I'm Autumn Horvat. I do comedy in Tucson, Arizona.
Hi, I'm Ameerah Sanders. I do comedy out of Chicago, Illinois.
Hi, I'm Dan Umthun, and I do comedy out of Des Moines, Iowa.
And I'm Sara Myers, and I do comedy all over, but I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Excellent. All right. Well, yeah. Did you guys all get in last night, or some of you just get in today? How'd that go for you? How was your travels to the festival?
Yeah, it was good. I got in today. Well, I drove to Santa Fe last night after work. I got there at like 1:30. Got here at 2.
Yeah, I just got in on the train at like 11. So it was not long enough. I wanted to sleep more. Sleeping on trains is the best.
I drove 12 and a half hours straight like a moron.
Yeah, why did you choose to do that?
Poverty?
Fair. That's a good motivator.
People kept asking me, they're like, oh, why don't you just fly? It's like, I cannot afford to. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
Flying is very, very expensive these days. Now, Ameerah, you were on the...
I'm sorry. I got here yesterday. I work remotely, and so I drove up last night, and then I worked from my hotel room today.
Sick.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I had to do the same thing. I work remotely as well, so I had to do some work today as well.
I'm on my PTO this week.
Yeah. Well, you did their train tour, which was a tour they did on a train, obviously, but you had stops and got to do shows. How was that? How were the shows, and
What was that experience like?
It was so fun. So, like, we started in Chicago, and then off the bat, we got way too lit. Like, it was me, Zach Moss, Ty Clay, Rachel O'Brien, and our cameramen, Greg and Tom. And we immediately was like, let's crack open that wine, that vodka, let's go. And so, we were being loud and obnoxious on the train from Chicago to Kansas City. But people seemed to be entertained by our shenanigans, so that was nice. And then like we did a show in Chicago, my show Astro Bitch, which is actually going to be done here at the festival as well. And so then we went to Lawrence, Kansas, where we didn't have very good turnout because there was an industrial goth band called Skinny Puppy.
Oh, hell yeah.
That was in town, and I looked them up, and I'm upset. My new career goal is to sell more tickets than Skinny Puppy. I'm gonna go to wherever they are and try to just ruin their crowd the way they did me.
Get so big that you sell out shows and then you steal their audience.
Yes, exactly. We went to. After that, we went to Dodge City, which, fun fact, smells like shit. And that's not like a euphemism. It's like they have like two of the biggest meat packing plants in the country, and they have like the town's surrounded by cattle feedlots. So as soon as you get there, it just smells like awful. But the people are pretty cool. Some lady named Renee at the train station let me borrow her car so I could get Burger King at like 5 a.m.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Like that was so sweet. And also there was a guy in Lawrence named Andrew. He saw us come in on the train. We told him what we were doing in Lawrence. Then he showed up to the show, printed out a picture for us to sign, and like we weren't gonna do the show because there hardly was anyone there, but we're like, we'll do it for Andrew. Yeah. But yeah, the other two shows were about what you'd expect from small Midwest towns in the south of the country. A lot of old middle-aged white people, but they were down to clown. So.
Oh, that sounds like it was a fun time overall.
Yes.
Did you guys have any shows this week before you came down here?
Yeah. Just the show that I produce regularly at the brewery called Peachtree in downtown Des Moines, and that's. It wasn't on the way here at all, but it was technically for me. So, that's always a lot of fun, brewery shows.
Yeah. How was the show? Was it a good show?
Oh yeah, it's a consistent. Peachtrees they're a great partner and really really supportive. Like when you find tap rooms are a weird place to produce shows in sometimes because you get like the audio can be a little sketch sometimes.
Yep.
But it's set up in such a way, and they have sound baffles. It's really good, and they're really good at promoting stuff, and it's right down like in the middle of downtown. Good bike culture. People pull up early on bicycles and everything. It's pretty fun.
Oh, fantastic. Sounds like a fun show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brewery shows can be fun for sure, especially if the brewery is excited about comedy. I guess that's any venue, really, if they're excited for comedy, because you definitely have those experiences where you partner with a venue, but it's not really a partnership.
Yeah, that engagement is key.
This venue is dying for comedy.
Yes, it is.
We're in a funeral home for those at home. I don't know.
I know, right? It's wild.
They do weddings here too.
Yeah.
Don't overlook that.
There's a casket right next to us. He's chill.
We don't have any video proof because we're not videotaping, but
take my word for it. There's totally a dead guy here with us. He's got good vibes.
What about you, Sarah? Did you have any shows this week at all before
No.
No, that's all right.
I was gonna ask. You said that people rode bicycles to your show, or
the one in it's in downtown Des Moines, so there's a pretty nice little trail network.
Oh, nice.
So like they took out all of the old electric trolleys and rail lines and everything, and then paved them. So there's a lot of cool bike trails through like wooded spaces and everything. So it's a pretty cool little culture there.
I was just looking at the pamphlet here because last year it was like the Chief Comedy and Bicycle Festival.
Oh yes.
Yep.
That is why I brought my bicycle.
Oh.
So you brought your bike.
Oh yes.
Getting some biking in.
Yeah, I went over to that lake today. It was pretty chill. It's a beautiful lake, by the way.
This is a really cool town. This is my first time.
Beautiful.
actually stopping. I've been through Trinidad on the interstate, but I haven't actually ever stopped, and this is really cool.
It is. It's very nice.
This is my first time at this festival. Have any of you done this festival before?
I was here last year, and it was fun.
It's my first
to be here
time.
last year, but then I tested positive for COVID like the
Oh,
day
no.
before. So.
Dang. Yeah, no, I was definitely paranoid about that on the way up because I haven't gotten COVID this entire time. And I'm waiting for COVID to just be like, gotcha, bitch, just like right before something I'm really excited about.
Just waiting for it to come out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did come here last September, though, and do a show with Zach Peter. It was just me and Zach Peterson.
Oh, yeah, Zach. I ran into him this afternoon just walking around.
He's funny. That was a fun show.
Yeah, he's a good people. Well, let's get into this. We're going to start. We're going to go into the bombing part of this because that's what this is about. So I'm just going to start at one end and let you tell your story, and yeah, we'll just go from there. So I'll start with you, Autumn.
Okay. So that it was probably like a year into doing comedy, and it was just at a mic. It's like a coffee shop in the front and a bar in the back, and no one usually really cares about what people are doing. There happened to be these people from there's a venue in Tucson, Marana Clean Laffs. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It's fun. I don't know. It's in a middle school. So, but they were there scouting local talent. And then there was a lady there with them. And I had done this joke like one other time where I talk about I wanted to go back in time and have sex with Jesus and then be like, oh, do you how do you feel about abortion? And he's like, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of it. You've never heard of the Son of God before. And then this lady just started booing me.
Oh, no.
There's 4 people there. Yeah, she was just like me. Yeah, most people don't care, but she was just like, boo, boo. Or leave, quit comedy. It was pretty aggressive. I've never had someone have such a negative reaction to anything I've said before. And then a week later they ended up canceling that mic. So I don't know.
No.
I don't think we want to go in a different direction. So I don't know if it was me or
but you're but I also don't know if it was me. Yeah. Now I'm haunted.
Yeah. So I didn't do that joke for a really long time, but then I kind of have changed it, and I don't say that I want to have sex with Jesus. I just talk about talking to Jesus, and Jesus is a creep. And that Gandhi thing really helped me bring that joke back, because it's he's not the only creepy prophet. So I feel yeah, I can do it. I don't know. I'm trying to do it again.
Yeah,
I don't I let him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So she booed and then basically told you to quit comedy.
Yeah,
you got canceled, bro. You got canceled. The show got canceled.
Yeah,
they were coming in strong for that. That's yeah, it's amazing what'll happen at open mics and stuff with people. Even if you don't like somebody, you don't have to verbally make it known.
You can leave.
Wish people would be a little more polite.
Yeah. It's I'm trying here. I'm working it out. What could I do to make it funnier for you?
Yeah. Or wait till after the show and tell me to my face,
Yeah.
But just between us.
And I never got booked at the Marana Clean Laffs either. So
Is it Clean Laffs?
Clean Laffs, yeah.
Clean
They there are children that come to it. Actually, I did. One of my other friends did a game show there, and he put me on it, and they didn't know that I was gonna be on it. They were oh.
Uh-oh.
It was fine. And then we were people brought beer and stuff, and we're in the back drinking, and they're oh my God, you cannot have beer in this middle school. It's we're not giving it to the kids.
It's no wonder they didn't want comedy anymore.
Yeah, that sounded like a bad idea from the beginning.
They were doing that was a different
drinking in the back.
Yeah. There were different venues though. It was just a bar that I got booed at, but the people, the Clean Laffs people. were there when there was someone that
gotcha.
came with them. Like I don't know why she was
gotcha.
there. It's like you don't like comedy. Like
Wow, that's.
Did I miss something, or does this Clean Laughs double as a middle school?
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yeah, it's like
what?
Yeah, they have two venues. One of them is a church, and the other one is a middle school. There's one in Vail, Arizona.
But it's a BYOB venue.
You cannot bring beer. We did not know that. The comics.
Right.
Like,
that makes more sense.
So is their target demographic children? Like what?
Families. Yeah.
Oh, so it's family
Children
friendly
don't
comedy.
like stand up.
Yeah.
There's no way you can make a child like they have the attention span's not there. The wit isn't there. Like if it's not boobs and farts, like they're just gonna go right over their heads. I know
much.
I taught children for 5 years and they're kind of dumb. And like they don't get it. Like I don't understand. That's the worst demographic to appeal to. You're better off marketing to evangelical Christians than you are to children. Jesus Christ.
They do a lot of like prop comics, like a lot of prop comics. Like I was like, I didn't know that many people did prop comedy.
Like
I
slime
guess I
and
didn't
poop.
either.
Kids
and
love
stuff.
props.
Very tactile learners.
That's funny. That's wild. That's a wild story. Well, we'll keep going down the line.
So I'm gonna kind of do like two because they're like both kind of short. The first one was like around the first couple of years, like when I started doing comedy. But this day, my friend had made brownie edibles, and I had never had any. So me and my partner like split one, and I was thinking, oh, it'll wear off by tonight, and then you can't see me, but I'm like 4'11", I weigh like 100 pounds. So I remember eating. We ate it, then we went thrift shopping, and then it hit, and I was like, we gotta go home now. And so we went home, and for some reason, I remember laying in my bed like immobile, and like my brain was like, it's 1996. It's not. I was born in 96. And it was just weird, and then all of a sudden it was time to go to the venue, and I was like, oh no, it's not gone. So I get there and I get on stage and I just forget everything I've ever written or said or thought, and I'm just it was painful. It was very painful, and I'm glad that I did that experience early on in my comedy career because it probably wasn't going to be that good anyway, and so I mean I got booked again and like got to come back and redeem myself, but now I don't even I used to smoke CBD now because weed makes me paranoid, but I won't even smoke CBD now. I'm just like, nope, I gotta go up there, no smoking, it's all good. So I don't do that. And then another bombing that I had, it was at like one of my first comedy club gigs, and I was feeling really like insecure and like nervous and stuff. And in hindsight, it was actually a pretty good show, but there was a woman in the front row who like would not smile. Like I couldn't get anything out of her. No. And so, I just went in on her, and I'm black and she was white, and I was like, you're racist. I'll do it. I will call you. I will do it.
I'm playing all the cards.
I will play the cards I am dealt. The black card will come out in a jiffy. Okay. And so like, I'm going on this lady for like 5 whole minutes, and then this woman next to her raises her hand. She's like, excuse me, this is my mother, and she had a stroke last month.
Oh.
So she can't smile.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Did I dig myself back out of that hole? No, I did not. Did I get the audience back? No, I did not. So, yeah, that...
I'm curious, was that when you first started going in on her after you noticed that she wasn't smiling or looked like she was having a good time, was the audience kind of with you? Like, oh, they're...
Yeah, no, they were. Yeah.
And then they found out about that.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, no more.
Yeah.
We're switching teams.
Then they'll be the asshole, so I have to be the only one to take the heat. And so, be careful who you roast. Because, it... Ah, man. So now, if I'm ever bombing, if I feel like I'm bombing, I just assume the crowd has brain damage. Keep it moving. But definitely...
Just keep going
That's
forward.
some Brene Brown stuff there. Just like you assume positive intent or brain damage.
It's great for my ego. I'd be like, how was the show? Oh, poor people. They just, all of them stroked out. It's crazy. Couldn't even raise their right hands. It was awful. They couldn't clap. I don't know. Thoughts and prayers.
Definitely wrong with that.
Yeah. So yeah, now I just kind of try to take anything personally. I guess on like, 'cause I don't know, the way people respond to jokes, I've learned is, especially culturally, like I grew up like around like mostly black people in the South. Atlanta, so like when we laugh, like we're like like we you know scream, jump, run around, like it's like a very like emotive. But like the more like white crowds that I've done comedy for, I'll think I'm bombing, and then I get off stage and they come to me like, "Oh my God, you were so funny," and I'm like, "Why didn't you fucking laugh then? Like what?" What am I supposed to do?
Like suppress it. Like my sister like suppresses her laugh. I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah, like let it out. You're like, oh, my laugh is so weird. And I'm like, good. That means I can roast you and we can all laugh at that. That's great for me. So yeah, it definitely also just kind of made me like think about, the way, what we expect from audiences, I guess, as comedians, and like also how hard we are on ourselves, I think. It's like, oh, if people aren't just rolling on the floor, dying laughing, then we just failed. But usually people, like, I feel like there are groups of people who just, like, if they like something, they'll do a little, they'll breathe into
Grin,
the mic.
maybe.
Yeah, grin or whatever. But, like, they're not going to,
Yeah, that's also that experience is a good reminder too that as comedians, it's easy to forget that we don't know what people have experienced before coming in to the show. We just assume whatever, and so when you give them a hard time about something, you don't know how their day was.
Yeah, I do have a joke where one of my punchlines is about moms dying, and I'm like, I mean, it gets some people because I don't know, it's like in relation to being queer, and like most of the time, like queer audiences love that joke because they probably don't talk to their mom anymore.
Yeah,
but then people who love their mom are like, oh no, not my mom, and so I'm like, calm down, you're not gay, it's okay. Your mom's not gonna die. That's just for us.
That's our thing. What about you, Dan? What's your story?
Oh boy,
you've got an awesome name, by the way. I just have to throw that out there.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Likewise, so do you. It's an exceptional name, fellow Dan from the Midwest.
Yeah.
So my story is very recent. I've been doing comedy for a long enough time, but this was literally 4 weeks ago at a venue in a small town in Iowa that we set up, and we are doing shows there again. So I am not going to name the name of the business or the city because I know somebody from Des Moines is going to listen to this, and they're going to be like, I don't know. There are occasions when you enter a venue for the first time and you have a tangible feeling of this show is not going to go very well, and you can tell. And I knew in advance that this is a very blue collar, extremely white, very conservative town. And so when we booked this show, we put it like, we're like, I don't know, because like how this is going to go at all, and because I look like the beard looks like I'm like America, but I'm really I'm like America, you rascal. So like I get up and I was hosting this because it's part of a thing that like a little tour that we're working on doing, and just getting things started. When you get people like right off the bat hosting, you're trying to get people engaged with comedy. You're accepting the idea of eating shit up front.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
You're trying to get people engaged and on board and get people used to the idea of laughing and just get them into the cadence of listening to other jokes. So like you kind of fall on that grenade for everybody else. But getting up here initially, like it was a good 2 minutes in, and there were still people like talking all over, full volume talking. And I'm like politely asking, because this is the first time in this venue, I'm not trying to like break anybody's balls about this. And people were not shutting up. So I'm like, I'm just going to barrel through this, get people on board. We're going to get this to where we can. And there was one guy in the back who we saw at the bar who was wearing a Vietnam veteran hat, and he was missing an eye, and engaged us initially. He was a really sweet guy. He's like, you here to do comedy? And we're like, yeah, we are. He was a real nice guy, and then he becomes important later in the story. So I get up, I plow through this stuff, and people were stepping on punchlines. They're like trying to finish jokey jokes, like to where I'll take like what Ameerah's story, where like people are like reserved and quiet. I'll take that over actively hostile any day. And they were starting to get actively hostile because I think that TikTok has ruined small towns for comedy because they expect TikTok heckler like engagement.
Yes, yep.
And so I get off and I bring the next comic to the stage, and he like this is almost more about him eating shit, but all four of the people on this ate shit. This guy gets up and he starts running through jokes, and probably the only two not straight people in this entire city walked in up front. And it was clear that it was two women who were a couple, and they walked in and sat down right while he's in the middle of a joke about dildos, and then he transitions. He says something about a pocket pussy, which is already, I don't love the joke myself, but then one of them was like not very unhappy with him and was like, it sounds like you have a problem with who you're with. And he's like, I don't. What? And they ended up getting into it and like actively hostile. And for the rest of his set, the couple that was up front were like just stepping over everything and like grading his jokes verbally and out loud at full volume, and he could not control them. And in the middle of this set, the old guy at the back, who with the Vietnam vet hat, he stands up, he goes, "Son, I respect you." And the entire, like the whole room was silent for him. And he's like, because what you're doing, I did 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, and I gave an eye to this country, and I got a Purple Heart for it. And what you're doing right now is more difficult than that was. A Vietnam vet acknowledged that his set was worse than being in Vietnam.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And the rest of the show was like the same kind of like madness, but everybody, like, I brought my buddy off stage and I was like, give it up for the last comic, and also thank you, sir, for your service to this country. And everybody stood up and applauded loudly. And that was the only positive sentiment that we got universally from that room. So that was what that was. And we're going back and doing another show there. So,
can I do that show?
yeah, you wanna?
Yeah.
You can do it.
That's amazing that after like a show like that a venue would be like, yeah, let's do this again.
Yeah, they, and I even talked to the person who booked it, and they were like, well, we had some people who were like, this isn't our style of comedy. I was like, you think? Because like, I even gave a hard time right before the show. I had gotten into the bathroom, and I was apparently in there for too long, and I heard somebody's voice outside be like, I'm about to call 911 on this boy. And I was like he thought that there was something wrong in the bathroom. And so I roasted him for saying that, and he got up. He's like, I'm not having any of this. Got up and like left the room, him and his friends, because he thought it was getting too real that I was like, everything, you can just be patient for the bathroom, I guess. Anyway. Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So yeah, you can all do that show. We'll all do it together.
Hell yeah.
And then that'll just be like its own episode of the Art of Bombing.
Just record the whole thing live.
Honestly, I think whoever that comic was should put that in their bio. They're like their credits. Like, a Vietnam vet said that my job is harder than his.
It's happening.
Now coming to the stage.
He's gonna have to.
He's seen
Please
actual
welcome.
bombs, but he's never seen a bomb like this before. My word.
Every single one of his jokes got actively workshopped too, and that's like.
That must have been
Hated
fun
this-
for the lesbians up front, though.
I'm sure it was.
That's yeah.
Do they have
that
a
sounds like
podcast?
an
Do you
insane
know?
night.
I don't know,
I would
but
listen to
like I'm sure that making a white dude want to cry. I will show you a picture. It's probably like cocaine in a way, but I have a picture
It's one
of
of my
him
favorite
after
things.
the set somewhere in here, and I'll show you
Is he
at some
crying?
point. Oh, it is the most sullen look
Oh,
on
love
the
it.
face of any person that you can even imagine. I may not be able to find. Oh,
And I
Oh.
saw a guy bomb so bad
Here
once
it
that
is.
a woman in the front row put her earbuds in.
you see, my guy just stared from the back.
yard stare. My God.
Like he literally does look like he got back from Vietnam.
Jesus Christ, that's amazing.
Wow.
Freaking.
That's definitely an amazing story.
It was
How did I know you said nobody really did well, but how did the other ones do, like in comparison?
So there's one comic that I will say who's like one of my best friends in comedy, and he's great. Brandon Ream. I don't know if you've ever seen him on anything, but he does like a lot of like punny one-liner stuff, and that played as well as anything was going to, because people were like, they're out and like you get the setup and punchline so quickly, but still people were just like stepping on every single thing. But there were at least the couple up front was like 100% on board. So it was fine.
Wow. That's comedy and lots of adventures. Sarah, you said you saw somebody bomb so bad that a lady in the front put her earbuds in.
Yeah, and like nobody really said anything, and then the host came out and he was like, he's like, I don't ever like to call attention to someone bombing, but like this chick put her headphones on. I can't not say anything.
Oh man. Well, what about your story? You're up. You're on the.
So I was struggling trying to think of a story because there's so many. You know, I've had to go up after a moment of silence for a comedian that passed away. I've had to go up at a dog track in front of a crowd that clapped for who was born in the 30s. And had their oxygen tanks at the table, which that was maybe the worst because, like, when the jokes don't land, you can hear the, like, shh of the oxygen tanks.
That's amazing.
But my favorite bombing story, I think, was, like, so I did most of my comedy in Florida. That's where I lived for a long time. And in Orlando, there was this guy who had a lot of control over the booking for most of the paid shows, which is, you know, the Improv and Bonkers. And so he was kind of like king of Orlando, you know, so everyone always wanted to impress him. And so for his birthday, he would have this like March Madness bracket style competition for like the newer comedians. And then whoever won got to like host at the Improv for like someone, for like a big name. And this guy, ever since the first time I met him, he always told me how much he hates my voice. This is my real voice. If anyone was wondering, this is just my real voice. I just had a voice when I was a kid, and then that's just the same voice that I have now, and I don't know why it didn't change, but this is my real voice. And so ever since I met him, he's told me how much he hated my voice. He was always like, Sarah, your voice makes me want to kill myself. Like, he did not hold back at all. And so I was like, okay, well, he's heard my material a million times. I'm going to do something different. And a lot of people ask me what I sound like on helium. And I was like, I don't think any sound would come out if I took helium. So I like Googled it, and I was like, oh, well, what if I breathe in sulfur hexafluoride, because that makes your voice lower. And so I was like going through all this stuff trying to buy this like sulfur hexafluoride, and it turns out that it's like there's a very high risk of you like passing out when you do it. And so I was like, okay, well, I got to think of something else. So like back to the drawing board. And so what I ended up doing was getting a Bane mask, like Bane from like the most recent Batman, with like a voice changer. And so my plan was like, we have 5 minutes. I'm going to do 1 minute of material, and then I'm going to put the mask on and do 4 minutes with the mask on. And I did not test it I tested it at home, but what I didn't know is that the mic did not pick up the sound from the voice changer. So it was just a minute of material and then 4 minutes of me silent in a Bane mask on stage. And I loved it too. I didn't know what was happening because I didn't know they couldn't hear me. So I was just like, oh man, they're not into this like in the way that I thought. And everyone bets money on who's gonna win also, and they do like the bracket with like what the odds are and stuff. And I messed up everybody's bracket, so that was the best part.
Damn. Wow, that is amazing. So you just did 4 minutes of what?
Could you hear yourself?
I could hear myself, so I just thought I was just like regular bombing, but apparently it was just me, just silent in a Bane mask.
No, when you perform, do you move around at all? Do you have like body language?
I do like a little bit of like hand gestures, but I really don't. I'm not like
just kind of stand there.
Yeah, so basically just me like.
And no one was like, we can't hear you.
They looked horrified. It was just like jaws dropped, like staring at me like, I don't know what is happening or where she's going with this. I can't look away.
Let her cook.
I feel like by the end of the 4 minutes, I as an audience member would be laughing because I'd be like, "This has got to be a bit." Right?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
This is part of the act, right? This is some Andy Kaufman stuff going on right now.
Isn't there an episode in the Harley Quinn an animated series where they do a stand-up comedy show in Bane's prison in the pit?
Oh no! Wait,
There is.
I think that
Bane
there
does
is.
like a tight five up front. That's amazing. I love that. They use it to start a prison riot. It's great. Oh my god. You should have really just gone the extra mile and like got some fake muscles and like really
Went all in on
really
it.
went all in on it. And when they like didn't respond, just Hulk out and throw the stool or something. That would have
It
been
was
great.
me, like dressed like this, but like with a Bane mask on.
I was somebody
Just dress
before
normal
I put on
with
the
the Bane
mask.
mask.
I've done comedy in the pit.
Oh man! So did you ever work with him after that?
I
did.
did.
Did he
I worked with
eventually
him.
book you?
He did. Yeah, that didn't go over well, but
Did he like
definitely-
respect you a little more?
No, I would say less probably, but it's okay. I did still end up working with him a bunch in the future. So.
Yeah. Well, it's just because it's wild to me that because obviously he, as he was booking so many shows or whatever, that he had such an impact in the way he was talking about your voice that you got self-conscious enough that you're like, if I'm gonna do this and impress this person, I need to change my voice.
No, he was scared. He was like, if you were new, like the first time you go up at like his open mic, he would like pull you aside and tell you exactly what he thought, like no filter. And I saw people like leave in tears. I saw people that never came back.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that's a
it
great
was-
way to develop a
I know.
comedy scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Florida is kind of it's how you think it would be. Like it's nothing is normal or right, and so there's like a weird kind of like hazing culture in the comedy scene there. That's very.
I feel like I
unfortunate.
thrive in situations like that because one thing I love to do is piss men off. Like it's awesome. Like how because I'm a very tiny woman, and like I have resting bitch face, so I've just had men have beef with me that I didn't even know about. And then, or like they'll come up to me and they'll like apologize for something, and I'll be like, "You probably did say something dumb, but I have forgotten it. But okay." But like any man that's like, "Oh, let me tell you about your comedy and how it is," like I've had men come up to me and try to tell me that, and I just kind of smile at them. I'm like, "You dumb baby, you stupid little." Baby, oh, you're so cute. Like it blows my mind. I'm like, I'm funnier than you. I don't know. That's what I always like whenever I have women comics, like, or people or women that want to try comedy. And like, you're right. A lot of women do get like intimidated by people like that guy, and then like like just doing comedy in general. And it's just like. Spite's an amazing motivator. And that's why I love that you went on there like, all right, fine, you don't like my voice here, like, an attempt was made. It did not succeed, but an attempt was made, and I respect that.
Exactly that same thing. Like, because the other day my friend was asking me like, why do you do comedy? And I was like, well, the first 6 months it was fun, and then after that it was to spite all the people that I hated.
Yeah. If you're a woman and you're listening to this podcast, you will bomb. That's a given. But so do men. I mean, we all bomb.
All the time.
Yeah, they so many times, yet they still keep coming back. So why not you? No offense to the guys here. You guys,
I'm not offended.
Great.
I bomb all the time.
Yeah.
And here
Embrace
I am.
it.
Embrace it,
I
yeah.
bombed so many times. I made a podcast all about it.
When you bomb, do you try to dig yourself out, or do you just try to bomb as hard as you can?
It depends on the situation, and like if it really depends on the situation. If it's like just a regular show for fun or whatever, then I'll probably just lean in or whatever. But if I'm getting paid, like I do a lot of corporate stuff, and most of the time I just go into a corporate knowing that I'm probably gonna bomb because you never know what you're getting into with those situations, but. those are the ones where I like really try, because I'm like, they're paying me a lot of money to do this, and I got to put some effort into it. If I go up there and start bombing and then I just like say fuck it and I'm just gonna bomb harder, then I feel like I'm being unprofessional.
Do we have time for one more bomb?
Oh yeah, we just got plenty of time.
Okay.
I've still got some other questions that I'm gonna ask you.
Okay, I just have one real quick one. I just thought of this one. Actually, it's more recent. It was in Atlanta at the Secret Show. I forgot the name of the venue. Great venue, producers show. Like, this show in particular apparently was just an outlier. But like before the show, my car had gotten booted. So I had to pay $75 to get my own car back. So I was already pissed.
Oh no!
So I get to the show, and the venue is a huge bar. There's a drinking area, there's a DJ area, there's a pool area. There's like so many things for people to do. So you choose to come to this comedy show, right? You choose to be here. So the show starts, and then my friend Tamar Rubin, who runs the show, she opens the show, and she does her jokes about being Jewish. And then there's this black guy in the crowd, and he goes, "Go Kanye." Oh. And then, of course, she's like, "What the fuck?" And like, kind of, she's actually rather nice about it. She like just kind of rants at him a little bit, but I'm already pissed, so I'm up after her. And so, and like, here's the thing, she's razzing him, and the audience is not on her side. Like, it's like, it's so weird. And so she can't get him back. She gets off stage. I come up, and I was like, I addressed the guy directly. I was like, man, like, I was rooting for you. I thought you were going to be a really good audience member. You might as well just say Heil Hitler at this point. And then he said Heil Hitler, and I was like, oh. And then I said, you know what? It's fine. A cop is going to kill you probably real soon, and it'll all work out. And then nobody.
You can only hope.
Like, it was a crowd full of like white liberal college kids, and they did not like that. And like, it pissed me off because, like, how are you against the Jewish woman and me? I don't, like, we're both saying don't be anti-Semitic and Heil Hitler in public. And like, I just spend the rest of my set roasting. I'm like, there's pictures of me just going like, like, fuck you guys. I hate you. You don't like, you fucking trash ass, liberal ass kids who've never been through shit in your life. I just went in on them because I just could not handle what was happening.
I initially had that totally backwards. I thought you said the cop was going to kill him.
No, I did say the cop was going to kill him.
Oh.
Yeah.
I absolutely did say that.
Okay. Well, I mean, cops. So, I mean, because those cops are probably also share his opinions.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it'll all cancel itself out. You want a Heil Hitler? Great. A Nazi's going to kill you. And that's, I feel like
so
that's
I feel
karma.
justified in saying one can only hope.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's probably unlikely.
Yeah, and I was like, I guess it was too real for them. I don't know. I was like,
it's almost too real for us right now.
So is the Holocaust. I don't know. That was pretty fucking real. I don't know, but okay.
Oh.
That's wild.
So yeah, I bombed, but that situation, I was like, I will explode. I will take out the whole city block. I don't fucking care.
You're like, I'm bombing and I'm taking out everybody with me.
Exactly.
You should be one of the X-Men. You're just like, that's your power. You do comedy, and if it doesn't go well, you can just level a city block.
Yeah.
But only those specific circumstances.
Gonna have everything has to align just perfectly, but you'll cause some damage when it does.
It'll be memorable, that's for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, I always talk about this. When you bomb, like, what are things that you look for, like, to try to analyze your sets to try to prevent? You look at a set that, when it bombs, there's obviously there are things that you can tell right away. Oh, the audience just didn't like me for whatever reason, or this happened, or whatever, and you can kind of hone in on what happened. But when you're not exactly sure, do you go back and analyze, and what do you try to do to prevent bombing or that situation from happening again? And this time we're going to start down at the other end with Sarah and work our way this way.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I'll do before a show, usually, like unless I'm hosting, of course, that I'll watch the show and I'll look at the crowd and I'll kind of try and, do they like dirty? Do they like clean? Do they like political? I mean, I don't really do a lot of political, but like, what kind of like stuff is this crowd feeling? And then I always have like a few jokes that I like start out with just to kind of like make sure that people are paying attention. and test to see if like, is it an acoustic issue? Because there's some venues that like, if the ceiling is really high, you have to almost like over enunciate for people to actually like understand you. And so I kind of like try to test a few of those things. Like I'll usually start out with like clap it up if you came here on a date. And like if it's like a really like tight crowd, like it'll be dead. And I'll be like, oh, okay, like clap it up if you came here on a date. Or you're dating, or you've been on a date, or you'd like to go on a date, or you're aware of what dating is as a general. Like I'll just like keep going, and I'm like, thank you. Like I just want you guys to clap, and then I always, like towards the beginning of my set, I do this joke where I'm just like, okay, I have to be honest with you guys, because I feel like you can probably tell, but even though I'm a comedian, I actually have really horrible stage fright and anxiety. And then usually people clap. If they don't clap, then I'm like, oh, buckle up. Like, and then I'm like, I'm up here, get my dick wet. And then if people laugh, then it's like, okay, they like dirty. And then it's like, they're not paying attention and they feel bad for me a little bit. So I got them. But if they don't clap, if they don't laugh, then after that, I'm like, just breathe and pretend you're at home until it's over.
That's good advice. Just breathe until it's over.
Breathing, birthing techniques.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I feel like you can get way too into your own head about it, and sometimes it's stuff that's not in your control. So I think that's like the main thing is like figuring out, was this in my control to either dig out of or prevent in the first place? And there's a lot of things that can play into that. Like, did I set the table for myself? Did somebody fail to set the table for me? Did I betray the audience's trust by like running a joke that they weren't ready for, couldn't handle, or did something like out of character? Did I fail to read the room? Did I misunderstand, either the climate I'm in, like, are these people racist? And did I make them feel uncomfortable by being real? That's a very important thing to be able to tell. And if that's not bombing, if it didn't go well for that reason. So that's not in your control. There's not, I don't know. I feel like there's little that sometimes is in your control, and that's the harder thing to accept. When it's like, I wasn't in control of this at all, and that's maybe the harder thing to learn, because you can carry that with you. Like if you have a bad set, I feel like comedy is kind of fickle, that you will have like so many good shows in a row that you will be due for that karma of bombing again. I
definitely feel that.
And you know it's coming, and you just don't know when and where.
It's like a ticking time bomb.
It's in the background. It's going to happen. And it probably just because part of it is just inevitability. So, yeah. Learning not to beat yourself up is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Ameerah?
For me, I like you were saying earlier, Dan, of like if you kind of feel if a show's gonna go well or not based off vibes, kind of like sometimes I'm just not on my shit one night, and like maybe because I'm tired or whatever, and like I just kind of have
to. Or they put a boot on your car.
Or they put a boot on my car, and I'm already pissed. And it's just like I gotta give myself grace for that. I'm always conflicted between the job of a comedian of like, should I try to entertain you and like find what you like, or let you sit and be uncomfortable with new ideas that you're not familiar with? And like, I'm a queer Black woman from the South, and I'm doing comedy in the Midwest. Sometimes I tell stories and I do jokes that I don't think are all that uncomfortable or controversial, but then my white comics would be like, yeah, no, people have not left their hometown in their whole lives. Like it's like they don't know anything, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like I overestimate sometimes like their abilities to both understand and empathize with me, and I refuse to dumb myself down for it. I just can't. I've tried and I can't. It might be the autism. I don't know. I just I am who I am, and I am how I am, and like I've kind of accepted that. I'm funny, and I'm going to do my shit, and if you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine. Whenever I get afraid of like, I feel like I'm gonna bomb or I'm not feeling like the crowd's not gonna like me, instead of focusing on how the crowd is doing, I'm like, my only job right now is to have fun. My only job is to make this a great experience for myself. And usually when I do that, the audience also has fun. So it's just like kind of getting out of your own head as well of like, you can't read, however, like if there are 2 people, 50 people, 3,000 people, you can't read anyone's mind, and you probably aren't going to hit everyone's funny bone. Like, it's impossible, you know? The best you can do is, you know, have fun, because like, why else would you do this job if you're not enjoying it? You could literally do anything else. So like, I'm gonna have fun, and I'm gonna talk about what's real to me and my experience. And like, I mean, I grew up, I still grew up Muslim, so I grew up Muslim Black in the South post 9/11. My whole life, I have been consuming media in which it's like mostly white protagonists and like Muslims as the villains and stuff like that. And I've still managed to empathize. I've still managed to find myself in stories and experiences. And God damn it, you're going to do that for these next 10 minutes, because fuck you. So I don't know. Does that answer your question? I fuck like you, I'm having fun. That's my bombing strategy.
Just have fun with it. Well, and you're so right on that. It's easy to forget too when you're, like I said, when you're trying to, you know, play into the audience or figure out how you can, you know, get them back or whatever, that you gotta, it becomes work. And then sometimes when it becomes work, it doesn't become fun. And then if you're not having fun, then it all ties together too, because like you said, when you mentioned that when you decide to have fun, when that's happening, then the audience usually starts having fun with you. And it's easy to forget how that energy, it's, you know, back
reciprocal.
And forth.
Yeah. I think we try to like take the energy that's there and work with it, but we also very much have the ability to project our energy onto the crowd. In fact, it might be easier than we think, because that's what they're there for anyway, is for our energy. So, you know, we probably like, I mean, comedians probably just feel like we have more power than we think. The audience doesn't have all the power. You're the one with a microphone. So,
yeah, very true.
Yeah.
What about you, Autumn?
Yeah, I think actually my husband, who's also a comedian, pointed this out to me. Like, if joke doesn't land, I get like notably discouraged, and I think that's like, oh, then the audience can tell. It's like, you seem upset, like you're not funny, like now we're not gonna listen. So I like am trying to like just keep going, like work through it, like you like. This is why you're here. And then like recording, I just started like recording my sets, which is horrible. And
you
like,
listen back to
and
them.
then
That's
listening,
the important
yeah,
part.
and then listening back.
I record everything, but I'm terrible.
Yeah. I started recording them for like a year, and then for the last couple of months, I've been like listening to them and like, okay, this is what people are laughing at, or like this is confusing. Also, I have like, it's like hard for me to say some words like iron. Iron, is that how you iron? And I have a joke where I like talk about like I want to write jokes about like my period and stuff, and it's like, sometimes like it's mostly men. I'm like, I'm gonna make you laugh about my period, like, so it's like goals like that, like I'm gonna keep going. And it's like, I don't know, so one of my new coworkers, I just started a new job, and they're like, oh, like that's like comedy seems like a fun hobby. It's like, it is not. Like, it feels bad most of the time. Like, why? I don't know why. Like, why do you do comedy? It's like, there's something wrong with me. Like, why? And it's like something, that like keeps us doing it, because it doesn't feel good. Like I think one out of every like 10 sets, I'm like, oh, it was pretty good.
Now, Ameerah, you already kind of said something about this. This is another question that I like to ask everybody, and that is, when you do feel like you're bombing or you're starting to lose the crowd in that moment, what goes through your mind, and what are you all doing to try to deviate? Well, we'll start with you, Autumn, and go back. We're just going to go back and forth.
If like I can tell like people are uncomfortable, or like Arizona is like a pretty conservative state, and I do like, I'm pretty liberal, and I just double down on it. I'm like, I don't care. I like try to like, oh, like you guys don't like that? I don't know. It's like nothing. I don't have a good answer, I guess. Like, I can tell people aren't into it, and then I just keep like almost making it worse. I like sabotage myself sometimes. I'm like,
Just
okay.
lean into it.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add? I know you said what you do earlier, which was just decide to have fun, but
I mean, there's sometimes where I fall into my crutch of just insulting the audience, of just roasting them. I learned a lesson, but I also have to learn that lesson multiple times sometimes. But no, like sometimes I feel like if I'm not doing well, I get defensive, especially if it is a white conservative crowd. And that's just like from my life experience. But I even I don't do well in the Chitlin circuit either. Like they're like black rooms or whatever, like where it's like, people who grew up with like Def Jam and Eddie Murphy and, the kings of comedy. And like they expect that kind of stuff, which like if you look back kind of leans on the misogynist and homophobic and stuff like that. And so I'm like a part of this newer crop of black comedians who are like more liberal than our aunts and uncles and stuff, and more learned because we just have internet and we just grew up at a different time. And so whenever I'm just in rooms where there's like this generational divide, I fall into my crutch of just being like, fuck you guys, or I just try to have fun with it. And I don't want my sets to become like an educational seminar. Like I'm not there to teach you about what they them is, Mm-hmm. At most I'll do this set, and if you really want to know, you'll look it up. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just really, it depends on the show, but for the most part, I try to fall back on the healthy response of having fun, and then if not, I just get defensive.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, you can do kind of one of a couple of things, but you can lean into the bomb and just have fun with it and just live it. The alternative is trying to figure out what went wrong and see if you can course correct, and that's usually I find like the reason for that, at least personally, is either one of two things, and that's either I misread the room politically, and I feel like we're all kind of talking about that being a common thing, and I think that's going to continue to be a common thing, unfortunately, for quite a while. The other thing is I like to do a lot of surreal stuff. I like to do weird shit, and when I feel like sometimes I will throw a joke in that's like maybe a little bit too surrealistic or a little bit too weird for like either where I was in the lineup or where people were in terms of whether they were on board for that already or not. So but that never feels that fun to like try and like to course correct from that, from like bringing the energy up and putting a whole lot of energy into something that is weird and then being like, oh, I need to dumb it down for all of you. I'm sorry. Here's some puns. Like, it feels way worse. So it is, I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes it's impossible to dig yourself out. And I guess that goes back to like, hey, just recognize when you can't do anything about it anymore.
Yep.
And just enjoy it.
Go forward and make the best out of it. What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I guess I try and usually like pivot to what kind of jokes I think that they might like versus like what I thought I was gonna do, and I was thinking about actually a story when Autumn was talking about period jokes, how when I was really new, I got put on this all-female show, and I thought it was gonna be like a lot of women in the crowd, and so I had my like best, feminist material set to go, and I was on second, and the venue had unfortunately been double booked with a middle school chess tournament. And it was like all 8th grade dudes trying to play chess while these women were like yelling at them. And my friend goes up and she starts with like a period joke, and I could see like one dude was like trying not to cry, like he was like I don't know what's happening right now. And so I was like, oh man, I just like threw my set list in the trash, and I went up there and I was like, I'm super slutty and I love Star Wars, and it was like bam, they're listening.
Nice.
That's definitely a way to read the room. That's like A+ on reading a room.
What venues are you guys performing at? Where are all these children?
I know, like middle schools.
Like, why? I've done shows before where people have brought their children, and I'm like, listen, if you don't want little Timmy to learn something new today, get him out of here. I don't know what to tell you.
that actually happened at a show that we were producing not too long ago. Some people brought their kid in, and we warned them. We're like, hey, just so you know, this is an adult show. And they're like, oh no, it's fine. And they were there mostly through most of the shows, and then the feature got up and went real hard and dirty, and they got up and left, and we were just like, we warned you.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they don't get mad at you for like whatever.
Well, and it wasn't like the comic that ended up getting that where they got up and left through. It wasn't like she was trying to make them leave.
Yeah,
that was just her act.
Yeah,
you know? She warned them. She's like, I'm telling you. If you this is the time to go. And they did. And then as soon as she started doing comedy, they're like, all right, you were right. We should get out of here. Oh, man.
Children
well, we should
ruin
probably
comedy.
start wrapping up. We always talk about bombing and, the bad stuff. So I like to go out more positive. So I'll give you a chance to each share one of your favorite gigs that you've done so far in your careers. And then I'm going to double on that. The other thing that I like to finish up with is we have the Art of Bombing playlist. It's to get pumped. Doesn't have to get you pumped for comedy, but just a song to get you pumped to do things if you want to add a song to the playlist. So, and we'll start down with you, Sarah, and work our way back.
I guess I have to say my very favorite show was in Cocoa Beach at a club called Gregory's, and sorry, I get like choked up. The headliner, his name is Ameerah Myers, and it was my first. I'd seen him before. I was a big fan, and someone told me that I could be on the show if I drove him to the show because he didn't have a license at the time, and on the way there, he asked me to like stop at Dunkin' Donuts and make this like really weird YouTube video, and then we went to the beach, and it was just like all these kind of like random like errands. But we ended up falling in love and getting married, and unfortunately he passed away 2 years ago. But that's definitely my favorite show when I look back on it, because I just fell in love with him the moment that I met him, and it was a huge sold-out crowd, and they were really good and really fun, and he killed as always. But
yeah,
really
I would
great
definitely
show.
Add that Ameerah Myers was a beautiful person and one of the best comics I've ever met. And if you're listening, go find his stuff online. It's all over.
Thank you.
I was like, oh, whoa, that's crazy. You guys have the same last name. And then I'm like, oh.
You're like, wow, that's random.
So crazy.
Sorry, I don't know.
Myers is a comedy.
Yeah, that's really funny, though.
I don't totally happen.
And do you have a song to add to the playlist?
A song to add to the playlist? Oh, God. Can you come back to me on
Okay,
that?
yeah. You're
Well, all right. I think I always look back really fun. I don't know if this is my favorite show, but there was a period of time that Shane Moss was doing the stand-up science shows, and it was a cool format because he would have a comedian on in between actual scientists that were like talking about anything from like the science of like studying why human beings dream, which was one of the dudes that was on this, and he was I don't know where exactly he was from originally, but he grew up in the former Yugoslavia and had done this whole thing on why people dream, and it was fascinating. And I was like, I am about to kill here because these are my people. Every single one of these people is a huge frickin' nerd, and they just ate that up. They're about to love it. And it did. I was able to do anything I wanted. I was able to get as weird as I wanted to, and people were totally on board, even though they literally just listened to somebody talk to them about, like, it's possible that your brain is, like, resetting all of its neurons, but it's also possible that there's a collective unconscious, and we're trying to find that out. Like, it was, so, yeah, that was a super fun show. And I did 2 of those stand-up science shows, and they were both a blast, like, ultra great. And I suppose I'll just add the whole Pup discography to
just the whole
no,
discography.
what was
add them all.
The darn EP, I can't remember the name of the song, but the EP that they put out in like October of 2020 after COVID. Because I don't even pay attention to tracks anymore. It's like the first track on there that's like flipping great.
Okay, I'll look it up. I'll find it. Or you can find it later.
All right. I'm going to do like 2 quick ones because I can't pick which one I like the most. My first ever set I did, it was awesome because I had just broken up with my first boyfriend in college, like ever. And I was sad, and like I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this for me, like fuck him, and like I did it, and I killed, and it was great. And then I met my current partner, who I've been with for like 5 years now there, so that was like a start of something awesome. And then my second one was actually at an open mic at the Improv in Kansas City. The people before me were super weird. Like this one lady was like a nun, I think, that like worked at a hospital, and she would like read people their last rites, and she was like trying to make that funny. And then some guy went up after her, a white guy, and said the N-word and got played off. So then I had to come up to this crowd, and I brought it back, and the booker like was like, that was great, like we want to have you back. And that was like a time where I really like it boosted my confidence and my comedic ability to like carry a show. So that was like really big for me in terms of my growth as a comic. And then I think honestly, the entire Renaissance album, Beyonce, is great. But if you want to pick just one, I would say Move. It's got Grace Jones on it. That just makes you feel like a bad bitch. Like, I'm ready to fight anybody. When I hear that, like, I feel like a god. So, yeah, definitely that track needs to be added there.
Perfect.
I'll tell 2 quick ones, too. Just, like, last month I got open for Ben Palmer, who's very funny. And a couple people after came, like, they wanted to take a picture of me. I was confused at first. I thought they wanted me to take their picture. I'm like, yeah, give me your camera. And they wanted to take a picture with me, so that felt really cool because that never happened to me before.
I do that all the time. When like, people, I'm like, oh, wait, you want this with me? Oh, I thought you were asking.
Yeah, I'll take your picture. And then just a couple months ago at Improv Mania in Phoenix, which is a newer venue, and you guys should all check it out. It's a really great venue. I did a comedy contest there, and I probably did the best set that I've ever done. I finally figured out how to like put my jokes together because I don't have like transitions, but I'm like, oh my god, it like worked so well. And I like didn't win, but I felt really good about it. And then I got there, like I'm closing out a show there in a couple weeks, and then I'm gonna get to do my own show there, which is something I'm really excited about, which I'm gonna do like a self-deprecation battle instead of like a roast battle where people like shit on themselves.
It's like a roast yourself.
Yeah, because when I was in Denver, there was this lady she had just been down a roast, and she's like, oh, people just talked about like how I'm fat. I'm like, you could do so much like more creative, funny stuff about me than like my weight. And I'm like, God, I bet everyone has like hilarious stuff that they can make from themselves. So check that out in Phoenix. And a song I always ask if I get to pick my song to go up to is Girl on Fire by Alicia Keys. So
excellent.
Feel really amped up by it. Yeah. And you guys could too.
Sarah, did you think of a song yet?
Yeah, I was trying to think of something that kind of describes me, I guess. So something that's weird and nerdy. I'll go with 10-Year-Old by MC Chris.
Nice.
This is about having
well,
a
this has been
voice.
fantastic. We're going to close out with everybody. You just tell people listening where they can find you online. Direct them to the things.
Oh.
We'll start here. We'll just go down.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Horvat, or on Twitter at Disaffected Slut. So follow me there.
Cool. If you're in Chicago, you can find me at the Color Club every 4th Friday of the month for my show, astrology stand-up show, Astro Bitch. And you can follow me on Instagram at Ameerah Sanders, AMEERAH, Sanders as in Colonel, and at Astro Bitch Comedy. So, yeah.
Oh, I forgot. I have a mic the last month of every Wednesday at Mr. Head's.
Last month of every Wednesday?
Oh, the last Wednesday, yeah. Come check it out. We're there the last Wednesday of every month. It's horrible, but
come check it out.
Yeah. Sorry.
Mics are a nightmare. That's what they are. They're fun though. I'm Dan Umthun. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter and so forth as at Dan Umthun, UMTHUN. That's easy to find. But I also have a very long-running YouTube web series called the Doomcast, where I get into the not just like comic book stuff, but like the social and political history behind comic stuff also, and just geek culture, and like, hey, maybe this actually isn't good for everybody, but also like it's fun to celebrate things that we enjoy. So check that out. It's on YouTube, the Doomcast. And I also I used to have a bunch of shows. I just have one monthly show now at Peachtree in Des Moines, and I run a mic every Tuesday at the Beechwood Lounge in Des Moines, Iowa. It is self-styled the greatest bar on the planet, and it truly is, because everything's 2 for 1. It's crazy.
And I'm Sara Anne Myers, and you can find me on Instagram at Sara.Anne.Myers, and none of those names are spelled the way that you want them to be. It's Sara, S-A-R-A, Anne, A-N-N-E, and Myers, M-Y-E-R-S.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for doing this podcast.
Thanks for having us. It's been so fun.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much fun.
And thanks for watching.
This has been a Dan Bublitz comedy production.